Hey everyone, welcome back to All Aboard with Rob Belliveau. I am Rob Belliveau, and today it's really exciting to always do these episodes in the studio. And today in the studio, I have my former supervisor, boss. I would also call him a mentor, and now in my post-retirement from fire, certainly a friend, John MacLean. John, welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much, Rob.
Are you nervous? Are you excited?
I'm very nervous, but excited.
Nervous, but okay.
Yeah,
That's
that.
good. That's good. We've worked together for many years in Halifax Fire, and today's episode we're gonna go down a little bit of memory lane of the working in the training division together, and kind of some of the ways that training is and was done there, and talk a bit about maybe some e-learning, since that's what we do here at Neon Train. But why don't we just start off? Why don't you just tell our listeners and viewers who you are and how long have you worked there, and what's your role, and tell us a little bit about your background.
So my background is I started in West Falkland Harbor, the old county, prior to amalgamation, and I started with the fire department in 1989. And that was as a volunteer. I was hired in 1991 with the West Falkland Harbor Fire Department. Stayed in that role as a firefighter until around 2000. 2001, I was then went into training and was promoted to training officer. Then after I stayed in that role for X amount of years, I believe around 2009, I then was promoted to division captain.
So 2001, just to benchmark that, is one year before I actually even got hired in the fire department.
Yes, I'm old.
No, I didn't say that.
But, and then prior to that, I was also a paramedic as well, with starting out in the old system, Dartmouth Ambulance, Metro District, and then the EHS system. So been doing first responder for about 40 plus years.
So lots of training in all these roles that you've taken on, and you ended up in the training division in 2009. And it was shortly after that I arrived on the scene in 2010, 2011 is when I moved into that division. And that's when we started really working together really closely. Around then, how had the training division been delivering their training? What was the modality of most of the programs?
So most of the programs back then was basically looking at PowerPoints, but it was by slides that you placed on an overhead projector.
Yep.
Overhead projectors.
Overhead
projectors. Pre-made slides by either self-made or through a third-party vendor. Yep. And at which time you would then sit and just go and have the people sit and present the program, the course, whichever, the lesson from that angle with the overhead. And then after that, the practical was still always the practical, which is the part that most firefighters like, is getting the hands-on.
Right.
But it was always death by PowerPoint in a sense, is that term.
It's a term, yeah. And that was the technology of the time, and it worked for then. So along comes this idea for e-learning with Halifax Fire, and of course, for any of the listeners who've listened to any episodes, know that this is a bit of my background in my past, where helping bring this kind of change in technology, change in teaching modality into Halifax Fire. When you first heard or thought of changing that and putting things on a computer to pre-read, to pre-consume the knowledge, what are your initial thoughts coming from your background and your history with training and development?
Myself, I thought it was going to be a new frontier that we had to start to explore. I'm a change agent. I do like change. I like the innovation or technology where it challenges you to go forward. So when this was approached to us back many years ago about moving everything into an e-learning platform, then I wasn't the expert in it. It was the other people involved, yourself and another individual who did a lot of work on that side. And that was where originally it was like, where were we going? But visionary, I could see that you, yourself, other people had that vision of this is where we want to go. And then that just lapsed more and more as we came forward with it.
think for any any organizations listening to this today, kind of one of the takeaways from today that I'd hoped that we would end up on, this is not scripted, folks, we just do this live, is that idea that when you have people in your organization that are visionaries, that when you have managers and supervisors who can embrace it and allow that to happen is when progress actually takes place. And that's how change actually happens. So, the perspective that you have there on the other side of pitching this, it was really comforting for me to have those ideas and visions received. And it was very empowering to say, okay, what I think we can do with this, it actually gave me even more juice in my gas can to do even more. So I think that's really important takeaway for organizations thinking about getting on this journey, because there's still organizations today that are humming and hawing whether or not they should, digitize their training, putting in an online system. So I think that feedback's really helpful for people listening.
No, it's something, and as you would know, but I also have a small little side piece where I do teach first aid, and COVID in particular is when that came in of how can we still go and deliver and start looking. And we've had some conversations about the e-learning side of being able to deliver that type of a program as well. So, but it's going to a point where it's exciting to watch, and there's still movement where you're going to be able to progress even further.
So when this idea comes in, the vision comes in, the idea to do this comes in, and then it actually is going to happen. The system has been acquired. And again, for listeners who are comfortable with listening to our episodes a lot, we talk about the touch points with Brightspace, which was the system that we selected in Halifax. A couple programs got initiated for change, which were programs in my domain. And then we started to want to make that organizational change larger. We wanted more areas of curriculum to be impacted and affected, which meant more people need to be trained on how to build in an e-learning system or Brightspace, how to then facilitate and deliver. If you could look back at that and give advice to a new manager, a company owner who's trying to be a change agent like you, but has a group of people that they need to make sure are taken care of and feel comforted, what would be your look back lesson for a new person going through this to make sure that visionary, the change agents, have a comfortable spot, but we make sure everyone else is safe on the journey?
I think itself is being comfortable with your employees, your staff itself, but you have to take risks. And part of that risk is having that trust for that individual who's bringing an idea forward and is got their gas tank full, that they want to go and move forward, to go and have that ultimately a vision of this is where we're going to be able to save on expense, time within the classroom, getting back to more hands-on, self-study at the learner's pace versus our pace. So with all those aspects, I think a lot is trusting into your employee.
Yeah. Well, I thank you for that trust, because it helped me in that role and now has eventually led me to a different career. And so it's been really fun doing that with people who are trusting. When we look at the areas in the fire department, there's lots of things firefighters do, whether it's firefighter training, new employee onboarding training, driver training, rescue training, medical training, as you talked about. When you look now at the division and all the different types of training, how many of those areas have a touch point with e-learning right now?
Everything, basically.
Wow.
There's a couple of courses that it's still, we're utilizing other ways to go and get
like a little more facilitator-led.
More facilitator, right? Where it's going to be face-to-face with the instructor, but it's more hands-on. But when you start looking at some of our larger programs, it's definitely, our career recruit training, our volunteer recruit training, those ones which are the largest programs that we have presently with Halifax Fire, that on that one, it's definitely student led in the sense of their study patterns, and ultimately they're the people who are going to be responsible to ensure that they achieve the goals and the objectives of what that program is trying to go and deliver. So
give our listeners and viewers just a little more of a real kind of tangible sense of what that program looks like. What does that learner go through on that journey of being in contact with your online learning system and then doing hands-on training? What does that look like?
So with us, with the career recruit training program, it's basically set up that it's a 15-week program that goes through where You can have a person that may have experience in firefighting or a person that has no experience and is looking for a career change. And so when they arrive on our doorstep, they are enrolled into the e-learning system. It's explained to them through a tutorial that we have built in, how to navigate the system. And then this is where the facilitation with the instructor of the to-dos. This is what you now have to go and start completing.
Giving them a clear picture what to expect.
What to expect. So with all our new employees, we go through a section called corporate training, which is going to be your WMIS, your lockdown procedure, substance misuse, different things that way. So it's a standard right across. And that's for career or volunteer coming in. And then as we get more involved into the technical side, so with our particular program, with the career recruit training side, the CRT, we do teach fire operations for apparatus as well as pump operation.
Okay.
So
teaching them how to drive using a computer.
Class 3
using a computer,
vehicle,
you can teach them how to drive?
Going through that. So they have pre-study lessons that they have to go through, as well as with the pump side. A lot of it, again, is hands-on, but that's where we go and utilize, again, part of the program to give them as much tools as we can to go and give them that success at the end.
Wow. Yeah. The blendedness of that really opens up a lot of opportunity that what was previously taught by PowerPoint, which is lecture style, with using a human, an instructor facilitator to regurgitate that canned information, for lack of a better term. What has that done to the balance of time for instructors? Has that opened up time? Has it taken them more time? Has the ELC consumed them, or does it give them, what does it give them back? And where do you see the efficiencies?
I think there's a lot changing in the sense of that we're able to go and have some instructors are very good within the system itself. And some instructors, it's more of a difficult journey to go through the system to understand it.
To get used to it.
So because we're in not on a constant basis, some people can go in and they have good skills and abilities that they're able to go without any issues. I think a key point within the division itself is that we have a couple of SMEs that we go and rely on. Sean McNamara, who's been with us for 10 plus years, and we just as an e-learning curriculum, as well as a new person that just started with us, Kara Baxter. So with their guidance and their abilities to go and help us, it does make a smoother transition to go and be able to get the information out.
Support the training
100%.
folks. Yeah. We've talked about the change. We've talked about an e-learning system to support the theoretical knowledge in the department for different areas. You have the training people who are the experts in those various curriculums, helping assist with the training online and also the hands-on. And now you've brought in two other people that you're talking about, which are the instructional designer specialists, supporting this movement with people who are well-versed and very highly trained in online learning has been certainly fundamental to the success of the program, hasn't it?
100%.
Yeah.
It has.
Yeah. So that's another recommendation we'd put in that checklist for future people considering on the journey. Right?
Oh yeah, you need the right people for the right ideas and movement as you're traveling through with anything, if it's municipal, federal, provincial, or private. But it's again having that trust in the individuals to go and be able to take something and move it forward.
Yeah,
and it may only be a small increment in the beginning, but eventually it gets to where we are today, which is leaps and bounds of when you first looked at the system to where we are today. So, and relatively, it's still a short time.
Yeah, really.
When you go and look at it. Yeah,
implemented around 2015-ish, 16. So just into basically 10 years of having it in place, and the first couple of years were a slow startup to get a couple programs done. When we talk about this, we've talked a lot about courses, and we've talked about the system delivering training in a course methodology. We know there's been actually a couple other ways that the system has helped Halifax Fire, and I just want to go sideways for a little sec and just talk about one of those cases of just simply using the system to do assessments, to do testing, to do quizzing. Has that freed up time for folks? How's that worked for you?
Oh, it does. Any of the teachers out there from yesteryear of going in and handing out exams and collecting, and then you have to go and grade
Yeah.
or try to decipher what someone is trying to
Head
say.
wrote on the
And those type of things. Be able to go and have it now that we have utilizing through the grade tool that we can go in and have everything preset, time limits, and the other is the availability that the student can do it from a home base,
fire
stations where or in a set classroom. So it's opened the opportunity that, again, we can advance those courses a little bit quicker and faster.
Yeah, and in that context, for, again, our listeners and viewers, there's the idea that sometimes there's required testing for career progression or for certifications that need to be done, and they're outside of the course environment. They just have to be done. Using Brightspace as just one course with one quiz to do that actual execution. I think about the old bubble sheets, having the little bubble sheets with the pencil, or having the overlays for the instructor to see the right X's and O's.
Yes.
The system just does that for you now.
Everything is done. It's set up a lot faster, quicker for us to go and be able to go and get the marks out, which is important to the student, so that they, instead of waiting, what were my results? Now they can go and almost get it instantly, and off we go. So it's made a big difference in regards to time and how it's being delivered.
And satisfaction. If you look today and you look back and you look at this implementation of this technology, you look at the change, and you just said all the curriculums have generally some touch point with online learning. Is there one that surprised you the most, if you think about this, of like, you knew that some would work well, and maybe there was a couple you're like, I'm not sure how we're gonna pull this one off using e-learning. Is there any that's really kind of like, wow, that worked?
I think right now, one that primarily jumps into my mind is when they're going for senior firefighter testing.
So that accreditation again.
The accreditation for a person to go and say they've been there X amount of years. And at one time, it was bring everyone in, and they had to come and scheduling, overtime.
Taking them off shift,
taking them off shift,
trucks,
backfilling, a number of different things, challenges to the organization, where we then were able to go, in particular through the COVID side, of now we can do this at station. All they need is an atrium computer, and the information's there. They can sit down and be able to go and complete and be able to get that check off on their accreditation.
So eliminating the proctor or using the in-house supervisor as the proctor.
And we would still use the in-house, yes.
Yeah.
No, through the captain or the platoon captain.
Huge use case. I think that's one of the fun things that I took away from working in fire and trying to use the online learning system for more than just what it was designed to do, which was just the course, right? And using it for these other smaller things that when you start adding them up, they add up to a lot of saved time that the people can be doing other research, development, exploratory in their subject matter areas, or in many cases, spending more time working with people with the hands-on and the coaching that we know is still needed. Online learning is not the silver bullet of learning. It's just a tool in the toolbox, isn't it?
It gives them the prerequisites to go and prepare for what they're going to be going into their next journey, more so on the practical side.
Yeah.
So when we go and have our volunteer recruit training process of, it's the intent that the student spends at least 5 hours a week. And prior to them arriving on a practical weekend, which we classify as a block, that they have about 5 hours of e-learning content complete, which goes over procedures, policies, but more so on the book itself, on the essentials of whatever the subject matter is going to be.
And safety, of course, too.
And safety, 100%. And then when they arrive on the training ground, all that information is already in their head. So then the instructor is now freed up to concentrate on the skills. Apply it itself.
Yeah. And a lot of that construct is also with a direct curriculum linkage, knowing that those modules or exercises in the online learning system are directly correlated to what is supposed to take place on the weekend, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. That's an awesome use case. And that use case can be applied really in any corporate or education setting. We're talking about it in a fire department, but really if we think about it, giving employees, giving learners the opportunity to get that requisite knowledge in whatever subject area it is and then go apply it in a classroom setting if it's, needs to be facilitated, or in a skill-based setting of out on the shop floor practicing with the piece of equipment, it really does give back time to the learner because they can do it on their own time. It gives back time to a manager or supervisor. And that time they give back, they can just work on the nuances or details that still need to be fixed.
Oh,
right?
100%.
Yeah.
And I think what was nice is being able to go and also see through the networking side, where I was lucky enough, fortunate to go to different conferences. And then you're finding out how the e-learning does go in effect with private.
Right.
And then as we start to develop more within Halifax Fire, some of the other business units within HRM are also moving in that direction as well. So
that's exciting.
It's definitely a lot of new headway is being moved to go and basically go and assist the student or the employee to go and, again, understand what they're going to be learning or getting involved with for future down the road. So
I didn't think we'd go here today, but we're going to go here for a minute. You just mentioned the conferences. So Brightspace has an annual users conference called Fusion. This year it's in Savannah, Georgia, which is going to be very warm. You've been to a couple Fusions, and you've taken in the teaching and learning, the sessions that have happened there. Worth it? Not worth it for anyone thinking about being on this journey? Again, if we're putting ourselves in a new organization thinking about getting on board?
It's very much worth it. I found they have different levels. So you have your beginner and intermediate or advanced. So it depends on which one you go to. So my first conference, piggybacking with you and Mark and that, it'd be to go and take the beginner to start to learn about the system a little bit more. But in the last one, you can go in and show up and go to some of the other courses, classes that are more advanced, and especially where AI is becoming more of a prominent force that's coming forward, that we were able to go in. You had a better understanding when you came to the next one or the one after that. So.
Yeah, I definitely think if I think back to our history working at Halifax Fire and being part of this movement, we probably wouldn't be where we're at if I wasn't able and some of us weren't able to go to those conferences, because that teaching and learning from other universities, colleges, big corporations was really invaluable, and really can't really find it anywhere else in the world.
No, and that's the organization has been great, because we have been able to go and say, okay, I can see some insight, but again, I have a boss, they have a boss,
everyone,
and that has to be pushed to them as well, so that they can go and see that vision. And we've been very lucky with Halifax Fire that they're able to see the vision and the good that they can get from the program.
And embrace it. So that's another little checkbox for anyone listening of, embrace your visionary, your employee, to participating in, if you're choosing Brightspace with Brightspace Fusion, if it's any learning system, whatever their conferences are, in any system-based company, they have conferences, and it's really valuable to send people there. This has been really fun, talking a bit about the history. I continue to be forever thankful for you being my boss and supervisor to allow this online journey to have commenced in fire. I'm super happy to hear that it's still moving on and going without me, which I had hoped and thought it would. It's probably better without me there. It's probably better. Any last thoughts as we close off this little session today?
No, I appreciate the offer from coming out.
Yeah.
But I think we are in a good spot, and the innovation, the technology that's coming down for firefighters, for their ability to learn in different ways, from the blended approach, even for the adult education, and how we're able to apply the different aspects of that the program has shown that it works. And I think that's a key point to go and say that it works, and it's working well.
It works, folks. On that note, thanks to everyone for listening to this episode. As always, you can provide us some feedback if you have any questions for John. If you're a fire department out there and want to hear more about how this happened, you can email us at allaboard@neontrain.com. And really appreciate your time today, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.